Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday so far. My name is Sarah Fairclough. I'm the business administrator for our platform solutions team here at SmartSimple. Today, Mark Bridger is joining us. He's going to be going over the November 2020 upgrade overview. Just a couple housekeeping items before we let Mark get started. We'll be sending out a recording of the session within a week to your inboxes, and it will also be posted on the YouTube channel. So just keep an eye out in your inboxes for that. As well, Mark's going to be answering all your questions. We just won't be hosting the Q&A session until the end of the webinar. So please feel free to post your questions throughout, and then we'll be happy to answer them at the end. And now I'm going to pass it over to Mark.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to start on the wiki. So on the upgrades page, this is where we have all of our upgrade information. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through, look a little bit behind the scenes on what went into this upgrade, changes are, and that kind of thing. I'm going to run through all of the items in a little bit of depth. As Sarah was saying, if questions are something you have, just start typing it in the chat. And then once I've gone through all the things, anyone who needs to can drop off the call, and then I'll just sit and answer question and answer for the rest of the time for anyone who wants to stay and learn a little more. Okay, our upgrade schedule is listed here, so you can always see when the upgrades are going to happen. About 3 weeks before the upgrade, it is applied to your backups, depending on your hosting, and that's all listed there. If you haven't watched already, it's less than 5 minutes long. There's a video here that shows you the highlights that you can share with people of what goes into the upgrade. So without further ado, let's get started with the things that are going to automatically happen. So these are the global system upgrades. These things automatically happen. We'll start with those. So the first thing, there's the deprecation of the Google Drive integration. That was just for multiple file uploads. That's not to say that we'll never have a new integration with it, but the existing one is going to be deprecated at this point. One of the cool things that we've done here is enhanced geomapping. So we've always had the ability to map, but we really gave it a lot of love in this upgrade. So let me show you how this looks and how this works and how we configure it. So here I've got a map, and let's say I wanted to see where the grants are being, grant money is being applied close to me. So I can come here and I can say, I want my location, and I want to look at where these grants have been applied within 500 miles of my location. And here you can see me in the sunny Toronto right now. And if I look over here, I can see we've got some different grants in different areas, and I could list what kind of money is being in there, or maybe these are different organizations I deal with or the users that I deal with, and I can see them all right here. I can click on the map, it expands and it highlights these people. So up top here, if you've used the map before, you would have seen there was the settings were partially here and partially here. We've moved them all together. So right now I can see based on my location, but it could also be location of the user, or it could be the location of the organization, or I can look for other things. So I could say, here I want to go maybe Times Square. So I can use that. I can pick a location and use that as the center of my map. And then I can find things in a close proximity to wherever I want. I can also use my conventional searching. So I only want to see grants of a specific type, or grants of a specific status, or other criteria as well as the advanced. And it's all right there together. And of course, I can sort it by the distance or different things depending on what I want to see here. Now, something else that's really kind of cool about this, actually, let me show you how I set up first, and then I'll start showing you some of their options. So if I go to the proximity map, which is what I've made, this is my list view. Previously, you would have seen down here, there was an option for map. That option is gone. We now have a tab. The tab is right here, proximity search. So if I click on that, and you can enable the map and proximity search, and then that's how you get what I just showed you. This first item here tells me what is it that I want to map. So I could be mapping organizations, I could be mapping users, I could be mapping level 2s, for example. And in a future upgrade, we're gonna make it really easy to map level 1s, 2s, and 3s. Right now, I believe you have to map them to a level 2 to get the address on those. But like I said, we're going to improve that in a future upgrade. The second thing here is you pick where do you want the center of the map to be. So right now, I'm just picking my current location. So that's where I physically am right now, where my computer, where my phone is. But I could have picked my user's address, so whatever address I've entered for myself, or I could have used my organization address as the center, or like I showed you, I could pick a place, so Times Square or the local Tim Hortons or whatever I wanted to pick. Now, by default, you don't have to pick these fields on the map, on the marker. But if you wanted something custom, you'll get name, address, city exactly by default. But if I want something custom, like how much money we gave to somebody, I can pick what's there. When I talk about fields on the marker, I'm talking about this. So when I'm clicking on these guys, this thing I see over here on the right, this is the thing you can control what shows up there on your marker. Now, beyond having this nice thing that expands and being able to see these proximities, what you can also do is maybe you want a different look or feel to this. So what I can do is, for example, maybe I want to use an image in here. So I can show you that when I go here. If we look at it now, so if I had organization or my grant type or whatever had images, I can put images in. And if you've never seen this before, I'm going to show you another option here. So our list views have different styles, view styles. So this is a list. And when I talk about a list, what I'm talking about is one record per row. But what I can also do is I could do a grid, for example, and I'll show you how that's going to look. So with a grid, actually, I like a different grid one. Let me show this. Let me show you a different grid one. I'm going to show you grid with large thumbnail left, just to give you a different example. All right. So with this one, I'm using the grid, and what the grid is it makes little cards. So it's almost like columns of information. So again, I can click on them and they will highlight, but you can change the way these things look on the map. So again, we put a lot of love into our proximity map with our list views. And later I'm going to show you kind of an alpha feature that uses this as well. The next thing I was going to show you is the media library. So when you're in a record, switch to a different list view here, you're always able to kind of play the video inline while you're reviewing an application. But if you're in the portal, it opened up in a modal window. So and a modal window is kind of like a pop-up window, if you will. Let me just show you that what we've done there. So if I'm opening up a portal now, and so actually that's really nice too. I don't know if we included it in there, but typically when you open up a portal, you have a preview button here. And you had to go to the root of the portal to preview it. But now if I go into somewhere like, let's say, further down into the portal, that preview button is now there as well. So you can preview it from all sorts of places, whereas previously you had to always back out a bit to preview it. So that's just a nice little handy thing for admins. But back to what I was really talking about here is the media. So if I got media in a portal, and this is just a media type portal section, and I click on it, now I can play that media right in line. I don't have to open it up in its own modal window. I can, if I want, I can open it full screen. I can even annotate it if that's something I choose to do it. So I can say, hey, I want to say, put a note here, and I can save it. And then if someone else comes back to look at this, they can come through and see, oh, Mark was reviewing it and he wanted us to pay attention to something that happened at second 3 or second 2 or whatever I wanted to do there. So that's just a new way that the media is going to play inside your portals. If you're using, I want to show you that, if you're using the type media files. All right. And so I'm just pointing to a specific multiple file upload field here, which is set to the media library. And then that allows me to play whatever media is uploaded, and I can pick what fields that I want to show. And I even pick if I only want to show video or I want to show audio, images. I've got a bunch of options there. So that was the major things that are going to automatically happen. So for minor things, if I go back to I'll go back to a record here. Now, if you're using the instructions custom field, you'll see with instructions, these are instructions meant for like this whole page. You can see it's got a nice big blue line here. What we've done is if you have field level instructions, kind of like this, instructions with the caption, we've kind of added a similar bar to keep them the same look and feel right here, except for it's a bit of a gray line. And this is really kind of helps, especially people on laptops or that may not have properly calibrated monitors. It kind of makes it stand out a little more and makes it a little more consistent. So it's only when the caption is above, but you'll get this extra line there as a better indicator. Another thing that you may notice is when I'm at the beginning or the end of a list, for example, you can't interact with this button because I'm already at the beginning of the list. So what we've done is we've reduced the opacity. It's kind of like graying it out to let you know that I can go next, but I can't go back. So that was done on purpose. Same thing when you first log in, if there's no history, you won't be able to, you'll see this, you won't be able to interact with the history because the history doesn't exist yet because you haven't gone anywhere. Next thing for the session timeout. So if I am working in the system, I go to the security, so at global settings security, there's this setting here called session timeout. And what session timeout does, I've set it for 3 hours, which is 180 minutes. But what session timeout does is if I haven't saved anything, if I haven't navigated anywhere, if I haven't really done anything for 3 hours, for security reasons and for billing implications, what it'll do is it'll show up a message and be like, hey, we're going to log you out. And it gives you a warning and it has a timer and times down. And then, of course, if you want to keep working, you can say, okay, I want to continue working. That's where this setting is. What we've done is, if you haven't set anything here, in theory, you could have stayed logged in indefinitely. So what we've done is, after 24 hours, even if you haven't been interacting with it or not, it's going to do that same process. It's going to prompt you and say, hey, we're going to log you out. It's been 24 hours since you've done anything in here. And again, it's just for security and for billing purposes. You don't want to leave your session open for days on end. So that's going to happen automatically, even if you haven't filled anything in. I personally put in 3 hours, but up to you what you want to put in there for your timeout. The notifications. So this is the notification icon up here, and it's used for all sorts of different things, not just notification broadcasts, but we find people are using it for lots of different types of notification broadcasts, not just upgrades, but maybe they want to tell people about calls closing or changes to your system or whatever it is you want to say or do. And so what we've done is we've allowed people to choose the icon. So if maybe it's more of a marketing style message or a call closing message, I can use a different icon to kind of give me a different visual indicator of the kind of notification I'm sending out. So here, I'm just going to show you how we do that. So if I come here to notification broadcast and I click add, I can type my subject, I can type my message, and then this is where I pick my icon. So maybe I'll just do an acorn. But you pick an icon here. You pick exactly where you want to send the message, who's going to get the message. Something else that we've done is we've added the ability to deny roles. So if I wanted to, I could say, I want to send this to all staff except ex-employees or something like that. Right now, the thing to remember about deny roles is deny always supersedes allow. So we always take a most restrictive approach at SmartSimple because security is most important. So if you have a deny role, and that person has that role, it doesn't matter what allowed roles they have, they won't see it because we don't want to ever risk someone seeing something they shouldn't. So deny always supersedes allow, but you now have that more robust option for your notification broadcasts. Something else that does show up under here, for example, is if your passwords are going to expire and things like that. You can also see instant messages and workflows and things can all show up under that notifications icon. But the big thing here is you've got more robust control and you can now pick the icon. So those are things that happen automatically. Next, let's talk about the stuff that you got to turn on, you got to opt into. So first thing was banners. So let me show you some of these things to start it off. So you've always been able to make banners, but it wasn't always easy to make a banner. So in this upgrade, we made it really super easy. So if I want to have a call to action banner, I come into the website and I want to tell people to come and update their profile, or I want them to come and volunteer for an event, or whatever it is you want them to do. We made it really super easy for anybody with no HTML, CSS knowledge to make banners in your portals. So here I've got some different styles. Where I have a title, I have some body copy, and then I have a button that will then go do something. So let me show you how I did this and how easy it is to do. So it's a new type of portal section, and it's just called banner. So you pick a banner. Title, as I was saying here, you can see that's the title. You just put whatever text you want in there, and it's going to show up here. And then you pick what kind of style you want. Do you want it left align, so it's about 50% of the screen, line to the left, or is it to the right? Is it going to be centered content, or is it going to be full? And then you just type the text you want, and you can add as many buttons as you want here. And you've got the handy picker. So for example, if I wanted to say, make it easy for people to edit their profile, all I have to do is put the name I want for the button, and I can pick that link and save it. And now they can click that button and edit their profile. So it's a really easy way to do that. Now, the other thing we have is this display tab up here. And if I click the display tab, this is where you would go and I could pick a different image that I wanted to show and upload that image. And I've got some other controls over what color of the text I want, what color, maybe I want a color overlay over the image to darken it up so the text is easier to read. But all those options are there under the display. So again, really easy way to make call to action banners in your portals. And again, if you have any questions or something, just type them in the chat. Once I go through these things, I'll answer them all more in depth. The next thing we did was with our sign-up pages. So let me go over to global settings. I'm going to go to organizations, sign-up pages, and I'm going to open up this IRS verification sign-up page. Now what this is, for anyone who's never seen it before, is this is a sign-up page. And before we let people sign up, we're going to validate them to make sure that they are a legitimate charity. All right, and we're going to do this one through IRS. There's lots of different validation services you could use, but I'm going to show you IRS. So I would come in here and I would say, okay, I'm looking for, let's see, someone in Waco, and I got a list of different organizations that are registered charities with the IRS. I can see their details if I wanted to, and I can pick one. So I say, okay, there you go. And now that I've picked it, it takes the data from the IRS database and it populates that organization. Then I can add myself as a user into that organization, and my organization's already been vetted. And I can just go ahead and create that. So the change here in this upgrade is you can still do that the way you've always done it, but we've added a new option here. Originally, everyone would have been using this Internal Revenue Service as their validation provider. But we've added a new one, which is doing the same thing, Internal Revenue Service, but it's via Charity Navigator. And the big benefits of this is it's going to be real time. The other one, the IRS one, we get that once a month and we update it. But over the course of a month, new organizations may have registered or may have dropped off. So this one is more of a real time validation. So it's going to get organizations that weren't there. And again, it will also get other organizations that weren't there. Because sometimes there are registered charities that may not have an EIN number. Maybe it's a church or something like that. It doesn't actually have an EIN number, but it's still a registered charity. And a lot of those will now show up under this one, the Charity Navigator. So what I would suggest is if this is something that interests you, maybe go on your backup, try this one out and see how you like it. I think there is a little bit of a difference on the codes, perhaps, but don't quote me on that. But again, if you try it on the backup, it's real time and you're going to get more organizations that didn't show up in the normal IRS lookup. Actually, while I'm there, I'm going to show you something else because this is something else that I really like about this upgrade. So you can always do a duplicate check. And I'll go to the user one first. Let me go to the user. So I'm going to go to user sign up page. And this is just a basic user sign up page here. And what we do is when the user goes to sign up, we have a duplicate check. So we're going to check to see if someone with the same email is already registered, because we don't want someone to register twice, right? So we're going to check and be like, email is typically unique. So we'd say, okay, there's already someone with that email address. We're not going to allow them to register again because they probably just need to say forgot password and get their password back again. But sometimes you might want something else. So what we've added here, and I'll just set this up, is previously you could only check on one or two items. So like email, for example, or first name and last name. So if someone with the name Mark Bridger tried to sign up and there was already a Mark Bridger in there, it would say, nope, sorry, you can't sign up because you already exist, or something to that extent. Well, now you can have an or. So instead of being and in the same row, so first name and last name, now it could be if the email already exists or a person with that first name and last name already exists, or maybe an employee ID already exists, then we can fire that duplicate check and say, hey, sorry, this person already exists. So now you're not restricted to just ands. You can do ands and ors. If that makes sense. So that's what the sign up page is. That was a nice little addition there. Speaking about users, let me go back into look at roles. I know I'm jumping all over the place here. So I'm going to talk about user roles for a second. And user roles are a way that we group like users together to control what they can see and do in the system. So I might give all a specific type of user one role, and then I can control what they do. Now, with the roles, so here I'm in this is just a made up role I have. Under permissions, you can decide what roles can set other roles, what roles can activate other roles, and who can send a password and who can set a password. Now, typically before this, only the system administrators could set a password for security reasons, because it's much safer to send somebody a password probably than have me typing a password out and then giving that person the password through email or some other methodology. But in this upgrade, we are allowing you, again, you can now pick a role and say, okay, I want maybe my tier 2 support people to be able to set passwords, and they can set everyone's password to my organization name or their birth date or whatever it is. So we've added that ability again now, so you don't have to be a system administrator to set a password for somebody. You can now control that. I already talked about the duplicate settings. Oh, okay, so let's talk about the countdown timer. So often you have a call and that call is going to close, and you really want people to know that this call is closing and kind of motivate them. So what we've added is a new custom field type to kind of give a more visible display. Now, this is the first iteration of this. We're going to enhance it further to make it look a little nicer and give you some more options on it. But as a first we'll go around, we've added this right here. It's kind of a countdown timer. So I can see if I'm working on my application, I only have 2 days left to finish this. So maybe I better get cracking on it or something like that. Let me show you how we did this. So the way I did this one is I set up a date field here, but you could have that date field on the call itself on a provider, for example, and then I can go from there and then I can display a message. So if I look at how I did this, it's the new field called countdown timer. Then I get to pick. So when do I want this countdown timer to display? Now I picked 2 weeks, but you could pick something else. And then I pick what field do I want to look at. So I just picked a field on my level 1, but you'd probably pick a field from your provider, whatever the call is coming from, and you would grab that date field. So if the call closes on that date, and it's 2 weeks before that date, then you're going to display a message. So before you display that countdown message, you can display a different message. And then when the timer is on, you can display a message. And then after the call is closed or the timer is expired, again, you can display another message. And what I've done here is I've just put some styling in just to make it look a little nicer. But like I said, we're going to add some more styling options in a future upgrade. So it's a cool way to kind of let people know their call is closing. And then, of course, once the call does close, you probably use a workflow or some changes in status and things to lock this record down and do whatever business actions that you need to do. We've added a little more control over the availability of provider consumer lists and the linked record list. You can now use that on organizations and users. So maybe on my organization, I want to show a list of their records or something like that. I can really pull those things out much more easily. So that's with the special linked record list. If you've never seen that before, let's see, I believe this is it right here. Let me just double check. Yeah, there's a special linked record list. So typically I would have the contacts, it's here in my left navigation, but maybe you've hidden the left navigation, or maybe you want it to show up in a tab like I've done here. So there's different things that you can show from other areas of the system and show it right in line in your application using the special linked record list. And so that's what I've done here. And now you can do that on the organizations and the users as well, not just in the UTAs. So that's kind of a nice add-on. Hashtags, perfect. So let me talk about the hashtags. So typically when you want to classify records, so I want to classify records or organizations or users, typically your system admin would come in and they would set up your coding system, whatever it's going to be. This is a certain type of organization. This is a certain code. This is a certain whatever the classifications is. And then someone else would typically come in and they might type how they want to classify this. Is it external? Is it internal? Is it whatever they want to do? And that usually means that the system admin has to set these things up. However, with the hashtag feature, now what you can do is you can enable other people who are not system admins to come up with their own classifications for any of these records. So for example, if I had an event was for a specific cause, I could dedicate a specific role of people and they can come in and say, okay, we're going to define these hashtags, and then other people can come in and code it. So here I've put a hashtag of art or kids on this because this grant deals with art and with kids. And I can just add more as I needed. I don't know, family or something. I can just add whatever I want. I hit save. And then when I go out to my list view here, if I start typing, so I start typing kids and I hit search, now I can see here's all my grants that deal with kids. And I didn't have the system admin didn't have to do anything. So let me show you how I set this up. First, I'll go back to the record itself. And I'm going to look at this field. So I just called the field hashtags, but you can call it whatever you want. And it is a text box multiple line field. It could have been single line. I just picked multiple line because maybe I want to put a lot of hashtags in there. And when I come all the way down here to feature options, you can see there's the new setting. It enables this field as a hashtag for hashtags. So once you've turned that on and you save it, at that point, anytime anyone enters a hashtag in there, it'll save to the hashtag table, and then we can call that to search and classify these things. Just like any custom field, you've got all your robust permissions, so I can say who can see this field, who can enter things into this field. I've got robust control over that, when they can see this field. You have all those normal settings that you would have. So there's twofold to make this work. First of all, you got to turn on that setting and permission the field as you need. Secondly, you have to put the hashtags you want into a field and then save, but you can do that on the fly. And then the last step is if I go to this list view, just gonna clear this out for now. You also have to decide which list views you want to be able to search on these hashtags. So for example, I wanted to search it on here. So what I did is I added a column and in that column, I'm including that hashtag field. Now you didn't see that because I used this setting right here called hide column. And that we use that column sometimes because I want to have stuff surfaced that I want to search, but I don't necessarily want it shown because there could be hundreds of hashtags in there. I don't want to show, maybe I don't want to show it. So that's why I did that, but you have to include that custom field if you want to be able to search on it in that list view. So I hope people try this out and let us know if this kind of reduces a lot of the load on your system administrators by allowing people to kind of self-classify and search for specific things. The next thing I want to talk about is the ORCID integration. So we've had ORCID integration for a while, but we gave it some love. We want to make it really easy for you to import your profile. So let me just show you what we've done, and I'll show you how we set that up. Now, for those who don't know, ORCID is it's basically it's a lot of time used for research, and where people will take their profile in the ORCID system and they'll bring it into SmartSimple to populate their profile. So the first thing that I would do is I'm going to my profile. And when I get to my profile, there's a message here. And this message is customizable. And I can see it says, oh, maybe I want to import my ORCID profile. And it says I have to click on the tab on the left navigation. So I go, okay, well, here it is. So I click on that. And then it tells me a little bit more about, and again, this message is customizable. It tells me a little bit more about what ORCID is. I can go learn about it. And then I can connect it and authorize and then import all my ORCID data. Once I do that, you get a screen like this will show up. So I get my counts of maybe all the articles I've written and the monies I've received. I'll get some nice charts. And I can see I'll have a link to my public profile, which I can go to. I can see my ID. And at any point I can re-import my profile information from ORCID I can even, well, I'll show you that in a second, and I can even unlink it if I want to. So if after I don't want this anymore, I can get rid of that data as well through unlinking. So let me show you how I set this up, kind of the back end of this. All right. So first of all, if you're doing an ORCID integration, I'm going to go to Global Settings, Integrations, and I'm going to go to Integration Key Management. And this is where I do all of my integration keys. So I've set one up already called ORCID, and I'm just using fake data for this. But essentially, you'd have a client ID and you'd have a secret code that you would enter here. And then the other thing I've done here is I've set up 2 fields. Now I set up single line text fields for this. I don't think they have to be that, but that's what I've set up. And the first one is I have one field that's going to populate with my ORCID ID. And that way I can pull that, report on that, and display it wherever I want. The second one is going to hold the JSON data, which is really like the raw data that's going to come from ORCID into the system. So we wanted to store that somewhere, and then we can make those nice charts and accounts and the things like that. So once I've set up that, the next thing I would do, if I go to, I'll go to users and I go to standard fields, and there's a new standard field in this upgrade called ORCID. So here it is. And this is what controls that stuff I just showed you. So there's the message that you see, and there's the other message you see. You've got to toggle to whether or not you want to turn that message on or off. And then you can even have an option if you want to show that raw data that comes from ORCID as well as the nicely formatted one. So that's where you would set that up. And of course, you can permission it like our other fields. So only certain people would see that if they're eligible to download their ORCID data. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoy that bit of changes that we've done there to make that a much easier and smoother process for bringing in that data. The next thing I want to show you again is on user profiles. I'm going to go to my profile. And I'm going to add in my profile here. So sometimes when you're bringing people in the system and you're reporting on them or you're reporting on organizations, sometimes you need some of a unique identifier. Now with users, it's often email, but it could be something else like an employee ID or a social security number. So what we've done, and organizations often an EIN number or something other than that, is what we've done here is I've got this field, which is called social insurance, social security number. And if I type in, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I've already got a user set up with that. So what it's going to tell me is, sorry, you can't enter that as my social security number because someone else is already using that. And what this is doing is it's enforcing that for this type of user in this custom field, we can't have 2 people using the same value. It's just a new way to ensure you're always having unique values. And let me show you how I turn that on. So again, this is a text box number field, and there's a new setting right here called duplicate value check. And if you toggle that on, it means that you can't have 2 different users entering the same values into that same field. And that's to make sure that you have something unique. So again, when you're reporting, you don't want to have a bunch of duplicate users all using the same social insurance number or the same employee ID or the same EIN number for organizations. And of course, you can put a message in here. And again, this has a sample template to add a message that you can just use. All right. Now let's go take a look. Oops, I don't want that one. Close. I want to go back and look at the portals again. All right. So if I'm looking at the portals, we talked about the banners, but this time I want to talk about shortcuts. There's lots of different shortcuts that you can have in the system and lots of different ways you can style them. So this one, these are shortcuts using the default style. This is the one style that's been with us around the longest. Some people it'll look familiar too. There's also a website style, and there's also a white paper theme. I guess called themes, not really styles. But the thing we changed in this upgrade is we made it really easy to surface a count. So previously you could do it, but it was a bit complicated. So now it's really easy to get a count. So if I've got a shortcut that's an icon style or an image style, or even a text style, and I want to show the count from the underlying list view, I can really do it easily. So previously you could do it with the aggregate style, but you couldn't do it with the image and the text. And that was problematic because if I had a I wanted to use an image shortcut, I couldn't see whether or not I should click that because I didn't know if I had 5 applications in process or 3 or none. So now it's really easy to do that. That was default. I'll show you with white paper. This is kind of how it looks. Again, you can see those counts are there. And I'll show you, there's website, again, icons, you can see the counts. And then there is another option within website to display them kind of like this. All right, so let me show you how we did that. And I'm going to go to the shortcuts. So here's a shortcut. This one is an icon shortcut. And you can see there's all sorts of different kinds of shortcuts that we have. And you can see it links to a system list view. It was an icon shortcut. It links to a system list view. And then there's just a toggle right here. It says show count. So you toggle that on and save. And if it's linked to, and it'll show what the count is, how many records are in that list view that you're showing. So it's super easy to turn that on. But hopefully you'll see a greater adoption to doing this now with the image shortcuts or the icon shortcuts, because it's so much easier to show that count. Let's go look at auto loaders. All right, so we have a menu icon. I'm going to go to auto loaders, and here we have an auto loader. Maybe I'm bringing in an HR feed or something, and somehow I'm loading information in automatically. You've always been able to, when you do pull this information in, you've always been able to create new or update a matching record. Or you could say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to update only, but don't create new records. Well, now we've also given the option to create new only, but ignore existing records. So if I just want to create new ones only and don't update anything, I can do that now as well. So that's a new option there for people doing the autoloader. Oh, okay, cool. And then back to list views. I was kind of showing list views a little bit when I did the proximity map, but there's a new option here. So typically, if you're doing cards or even records with these images, then typically you want the image to fill the space. So if it's a picture of a person or a landscape or even an illustration, typically you'd want that to fill the space. But if each of these are organizations and they have a logo instead, then you really wouldn't want to crop that logo down. So we've added a new option here if that's the case for you. And I'll just show you what that is. And the option is called Fit Image to Frame. So if you're showing images in the list view and you don't want to crop to take up all the available space, you can put that on. And it's just like, for those of you who remember the regular TV versus the 16:9 or widescreen TV, it'll give you little bars above and below or on the sides, because what's going to do is it's going to proportionally shrink the image down to fit the available size, as opposed to right now, what it does is it just kind of crops it to fill the space. So if you've got logos in here, you can turn that new setting on, and then you won't crop those logos anymore. And you can see there's a picture there on the wiki. So it's got a bit of space above, because it's taking that image and reducing it proportionally. Now, we say no beta previews, but there is kind of an alpha one, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. It's a shopping cart. I'm just going to run through a few more items first, and I'll talk a little bit about, maybe I'm doing a sneak peek on what we're working on. So for admins, I'm personally happy about this. If I go to workflows, so menu icon workflows, and I open up a workflow, you're now going to see there's an update history, so I can see, hey, who's been changing my workflow here. I can even go into it and see the details of what's been changed. So that's super helpful, I think, to anyone who's working with workflows. We've also made some modifications to the way report caching works to allow for dynamic criteria. So that's going to help out with performance. The system design summary. Yeah, if you've never used that, so if I go to menu icon global settings, we've got this thing here called the system design summary. And what this does, so what I can do is, let me just click this. It's going to generate a Word document. And what this Word document is it's going to show me how that was configured at the time I clicked this. The change that we had to that was we've added the custom field ID so I can see what statuses, what types, and how it was configured at the time I did it. All All right, I'm not going to actually wait for that right now, but that's what that does. We've added the IDs to it. Let me look at the custom batch updates. All right, so now I'm looking at this list view here. And for those of you who are system admins, you'll see that we've got a batch update here button, which is a super powerful button where I can go and I can click something and let's say I want to change a whole bunch of objects. I can change their status, I can change the owner, I can even change field values, all sorts of things I can do, really powerful things I can do with the records I've chosen. Now, what we also have is for your non-system admins, we often have these custom batch update buttons, which will do one specific thing. So for example, here I've made one, and let's just go look at it. I've made a custom batch update button because maybe on the list view here, it's a batch update button. So I've made a custom one here, which if someone clicks it, it just changes that to a draft status. So maybe I want to move a whole bunch in bulk to draft status. I can do that, and I can permission this button for a specific user role, and then they can do that. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because we've added translation support for this, or more robust translation support. So if I go up here, I can see this translation, and then I pick the translation I want, and I add whatever I want for that button label. If you never entered translations that way, this button right here enables you to add translations to a lot of different areas of the system. So anyway, that's been added there. Speaking of translations, in this upgrade, we're going to be adding translations for Japanese, Catalan, and Gaelic as well. So we've always had French, Canadian, and Spanish, but we're adding more support. So those will be coming very shortly. They're just being translated right now, and you will see them. So what I mean by that is if I come in here as a global admin, any of the system text that's kind of default system text, when I switch my language right here, I'll see it in that language. So you can configure in 5 or 6 different languages right off the bat with doing nothing. All right. We've enhanced the accessibility mode. So a lot of people don't even probably know about this, but if I go to global settings and branding, we've got this toggle here, this option, enable accessibility mode. And we added that maybe last upgrade or upgrade before. And what it really does is it allows us to more control over making sure things are really visible and are really accessible. So for example, here, when I'm clicking on these guys, I've got accessibility mode on. When I got all these things that are keyboard accessible, and it kind of gives me a better highlight. It shows me the names of these items. And there was even a couple of things where you may not have been able to tab to it before, like I believe it was the update history icon. You couldn't tab to it. So when you turn this on, you get a much nicer, kind of more accessible experience on your system. So I just wanted to highlight that you can do that. Something else that while I'm highlighting, because I know this came up a few times, almost totally unrelated, but for those of you who don't know, when we're talking about sign-up pages, if you find that you're getting a lot of spam signups, you can always come here under Global Settings Security and enable Captcha, and that will put the Captcha on all your signup pages, and that will reduce that. So I mean, I know that was kind of not new in this upgrade, but just letting people know, again, all you have to do is click enabled, and you'll get Captcha there, which is the completely automated public Turing, I forget, sorry guys, I butchered that one. But anyway, it checks to make sure it's not a robot and will reduce any spam signups. The archive schedule has been updated, same with primary authentication controller. And I guess we're just letting you guys know that Microsoft is ending the support for IE 11. Now, I'm not aware of anything that's not really working in IE 11, but if you are still on IE 11, you really probably should look at trying to move yourself off of IE 11 into a more modern browser, just to make sure that everything will continue to work as expected for you. So then the other thing I wanted to show you, so that was what was in the upgrade, but I wanted to show you more of a sneak peek or alpha feature here. So if you noticed earlier today, you saw I've got a shopping cart up here. And I thought I'd just show you what we're working on. So let's say I mean, what organizations? Let's say I want to donate to an organization maybe, or maybe I want to join a volunteer somewhere. So what I can do, again, I can use the proximity map, for example, and I can say, okay, well, I want to find organizations that are close to me because I want to donate to the food bank down the street. And I can click on this and say, okay, well, yeah, here's New Arcs in Newark. So, whoops, sorry, go back. So I want to donate to them. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to give them $15. And then I also like hats in Manhattan, so I can donate to them. And I can say, okay, here's $20 for you. And then what I'm going to see is up here, I can see there's a 2 up here. So if I click on my shopping cart, I can see here's the donations I want to make. And it doesn't have to be donations. This could be, I could be signing up for events. I could be buying t-shirts. You can use the shopping cart for whatever it is you want to purchase or whatever you want to lump together. And then when I proceed to the checkout, I can see here's some things that I want to donate to. I can edit them. I can remove them. Right now it's using the Stripe is where I've configured it, but we're going to be adding PayPal and payroll deduction and all sorts of different payment methods. This is why it's more of an alpha feature there, but we're going to have a whole bunch of different payment methods you can do here. And then I would say proceed to payment. Again, I got my summary. I put in my credit card information. I confirm the payment and away you go. So that's something we're working on right now. Being able to use the shopping cart to do all those kind of transactions. So I think that's going to be quite cool and up and coming. So without any further ado, I think I would like to just go to the question and answer, and let's see what you guys have to say.
Great. Thanks so much, Mark. That was awesome. And it looks like we have a couple of questions already. How do you get the choice on Listview for maps?
Perfect. Yeah. So here I am in my map. So if I go to the map, Listview, it used to be down here, but now after the upgrade, you're going to find there's a new tab called Proximity Search. So you have to go to the Proximity Search tab. You have to click Enable Map and Proximity Search because the two are coupled, and then you hit Save, and you'll get it. You don't really have to pick anything else other than that. Just Proximity Search, Enable Map, and Save, and you'll have the map. Yeah. And the other thing to note is the map will work with the list and the grid, but I don't think it works with the tree. So you have to have one of these two view styles.
For the countdown timer, how do you add level 1 fields to the deadline date and the time field to the drop-down list? Can you select multiple fields?
I think you can only select a single field. Don't quote me on this, but let me see. So if I'm looking at this, you pick a field, what field you want for the date and time. And so it's a date and time. And I picked the call closing. So let me just take a look at that here. This is the field I picked, but it doesn't have to be on the level 1. I picked the text box, date and time. So it was a single field. If you need 2 fields, I guess maybe talk to support or put a suggestion in or something like that. And maybe we can look at if we need 2 fields, but right now it's date and time, a single field.
Great. Our next question, it's relating to the IRS search mechanism. Is it can we go over the process of switching it to the real-time search?
Yeah. All right. So if I go over here, good questions, by the way, people. I like it because I so rarely get to talk to everybody. So I really appreciate you guys just spending your time with me and that you're here to ask some questions and I can kind of show you around behind the scenes, some of this stuff. All right. So when you're setting up a sign up page, first you'd set up the user sign up page, and then you would set up the organization sign up page. Once you've done that, here you can pick different types of behaviors that you want the page to do. And this is where you set up the confirmation. Confirmation is right there. All right. And then you'd pick all the fields you want. So because it's an IRS, you need an EIN number field, which is the custom field I set up, and you have to make sure that that's there. This is where you pick your verification service. So it's as simple as switching it from IRS up to this one, and you'll start using the new service. You won't need to do anything else to switch that over. And then we would add these sample instructions. So as long as you're using the default sign up page with the default things, you may want to re-add these sample instructions in case, depending if you have an older one. And again, here, this is where you map to the EIN number. So you can pick whatever field you want to map to. So I'm mapping the EIN number to the EIN number custom field I've created. And then down under here, you can pick to exclude, because sometimes people want to exclude certain organizations. Maybe they don't fund religious organizations or something like that. So you can do your exclusions in here. If I don't know, I'll just pick one. If I don't want to, I want to exclude them, I can exclude those, and I can exclude subsections as well.
Great. Where do you add the hashtag in the field?
Oh, perfect. Let me go back. All right. So if we're looking at hashtags, so let me look at this guy. So let's say, I'll say do good, and I hit save. At that point, that hashtag is now saved into the database. So if I go to the list view now, I can search for do good. You know, I know that's not proper grammar, but that's all you have to do to add the hashtag. The real key here is that it has to be a single or multiple line text box, and you have to enable hashtags under the feature options. So as long as that's turned on and enabled, and as long as that field shows up in your list view, that's all you need to do. And really, it's more permissioning around who can enter the hashtag here. It's all really, that's all you need to know.
In order to use the countdown feature, you need to create a date field first for it to reference. I think somebody's just looking for a bit of clarification.
Yeah.
Can the closing date field be specified to a certain time zone?
You have to have a date field. You don't have to create one specifically for this. So if you've got a date field somewhere else, you can just point to that date field, that date and time field. Time zone, I don't know if I have an answer for that one. I don't know if that depends on your server time. You'd probably have to call support, because I'm not exactly sure, and I don't want to give you the wrong answer on that. Whether you can specify the time zone, because I'm just not familiar. So my apologies on that one. But if you give a support a call, I'm sure they can help you set that up and make sure that it's presenting the way you want it to present.
Great. Can you use the hashtag results for SS Logic?
I don't think so. Again, I'm not sure on that one. But again, this is our first go at the hashtags. So, you know, now that you guys are going to start using it, I'd love to see kind of what suggestions people have, or how we want to enhance it to make it better. This is really the first pass. So, you know, if there's a business case for having SS Logic in there, that might be a great addition to this feature. So again, maybe try it out and then contact either support or the suggestion manager and let us know how you want to use this. And then we can enhance it further.
Regarding ending support for IE browser, will MS Edge be fully supported, or just Chrome, Firefox, and Safari?
I believe the plan is that Edge will be supported, and I believe it should work. If it doesn't, let us know where you're experiencing difficulty on that. Again, just give support a call and let us know, and we can look into it. But yeah, if we just go here, one second. I'm going to go to my favorite place, the user interface, and on the browser. So yeah, our plan is Microsoft Edge, Safari, Firefox, and Chrome. So the latest 2 versions of those should be good for everything. So if you're one of these in the latest 2 versions, you know, you should not have any problems. With IE 11, I think what's going to happen is over time, some functionality may just not be available. I know there was something with the JSON that isn't available on IE 11, but ideally just move to one of these and be on the latest 2 versions, and you should be great.
Great. I believe this question is in reference to the countdown timer, but Kayla, if I'm incorrect, please just let me know. Can the closing date be a date field from another UTA? For example, if the dates are set in the program manager, can the submission manager reference the dates in the program manager?
Yeah, and I think that's probably how most people will do this. So yeah, you use the date would be in your provider, and then you would pick that there. This is bad on me. I should have just done that to show you, but essentially, yes, when you pick this up here, you can see how I don't have a provider for this UTA, but I only have, so that says level ones. But if I had a provider, you would see the providers here listed, and then you would pick a field from one of your providers. And so yes, that's how I think most people will do it, and that's a very good question.
Great. Another question about the countdown timer. How do you point to the date time field that you want?
It's picked through that drop down. So all the eligible date time fields should show up in that drop down, and then you just pick the one you want. So I either pick it from my UTA or I pick it from my provider UTA, and then I'll pick from there. It'll list them all out.
One more question. Can you show how you use hashtags in the Listview filters?
Sure. Let's take a look back here. So basically I have my normal filters, the types and the statuses, right? And then I can do, I said kids maybe, and I can search on that. I can do, art is one of them. Yeah, art, whoops. So I can pick art, and then I can search on that. And these are all my ones with art. I mean, yeah, like that's, and again, you just pick in here for my columns. I'll make sure that this column is there. If I turn it off, the hiding, I'll just show you that you can see, this is what I had set up for my records. So you can see how I've tagged all my records if you wanted to. Maybe that makes it a little clearer. Hopefully that answers your question. Excuse me.
Great. So I think that's all the questions we currently have. Like we said earlier, and like Mark said throughout the presentation, if anybody does have any further questions, though, please feel free to reach out to support@smartsimple.com. You can connect with a team member there to kind of go over anything with your system. We're also going to be posting the session on Tribe. Tribe is the platform we used for Elevate, if you had the chance to join us for that. And we are going to be taking any questions from the session on there as well. Yeah, just like Mark said, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about the upgrade.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.